So I'm Linda Schmidt, and today we're going to talk about poinsettias here in Lincoln Park Conservatory. And we're going to start right here in the parking lot, and you can see the light, the street lamp, that's been painted black on this side, and that's to keep light out of the greenhouses where the poinsettias are growing. The greenhouses themselves are heavily coated. The doors are covered with dark cardboard to not let light in, and they paint the street light, so they try to reduce the amount of light as much as they can for a period of time until it's ready for us to start blooming, and then they gradually introduce more and more light. So here we are in greenhouse number 1. At the conservatory we have 3 greenhouses devoted to growing poinsettias. And the first one is newly planted poinsettias, and the poinsettia plants themselves are shared between here and Garfield Park. And so these are newly planted. You can see that they're starting to turn, and the light is controlled. Poinsettias need 12 hours of sunlight every day and 12 hours of darkness to turn color. So they keep the poinsettias very, very controlled. Temperature is 75 degrees, also carefully controlled. And we can just take a look. They originated with the Aztecs in Mexico. And the legend is that a young child didn't have a gift to take to church at Christmas time to worship, and found on the way a blooming poinsettia plant, which she then took with her to Christmas time. And so poinsettias are associated with Christmas. They've since sort of left Mexico through the work of Joel Poinsett in the 1800s. He brought them from Mexico to the US. They're grown in greenhouses. They are one of the most hybridized plants. I think there are several hundred hybrid species at this point. So there are singles and doubles and different colors on the leaves, quite beautiful. But also this is a huge economic for the plant industry. So we just went into greenhouse number 2, and these poinsettias are larger, and you can see they've been growing a few years. So these are some of the ones that the conservatory has saved excuse me, from previous years. And you can see that they're already starting to change color. The color, these are actually bracts. They're not really blooms. Bracts that change color, and it's due to the light that they get. Photoperiodism, I think is what it's called. And so the controlling the light helps the bracts, which are actually modified leaves, to bloom. We found a nice example here, and you can see the bracts, the red, and this center part, these little yellow things, these are actually going to be open up to be very, very tiny yellow blooms. And that's the bloom of a poinsettia. Characteristics: big center vein, prominent veins off the center vein. You can tell, and often this is true with all plants, if they have red stems, they're pretty much always a red bloom. That's a given. Poinsettias are naturally trees, and actually quite tall trees in Mexico. They prune them to be full and bushy, the gardeners here. So they're getting basically perfect growing conditions to grow perfect poinsettias. So pretty. This is an interesting poinsettia. It actually, the way that it's been pruned, it has very much of a tree-like look, woody stems and branches. So this is probably an older plant, because a younger plant would be softer, like this is up here. Again, this is red, so it's probably going to come up with red blooms, called tapestry. So December 12th is National Poinsettia Day. So remember that and buy your poinsettias for your house for National Poinsettia Day. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to enjoy them here at the conservatory again. Here's an example of a poinsettia tree, also probably hybridized form, but again, poinsettias are really trees. We think of them as little tiny plants that we buy in the grocery store or at our flower shop, but they're really just in nature trees. This one's been pruned up to be a standard form, very tall. It's just probably about 10 feet tall. This one's going to have red blooms. This one's going to be white blooms. You can see very much that the stems are white and and these are red here. So this would be red blooms. So pretty amazing how they grow. Some of these have been in the care of the conservatory for a number of years, 5, 6, 10 years. I think I heard last year that one was, we had a 30-year-old plant in here. So it's pretty wonderful to see them. One of the other things about poinsettias, and I'm sure if you've had them in your house you notice this, is they can be quite buggy plants. And so they have many of these bugs get caught on these here to protect the plants. Fans keep the air moving, which is another way of deterring pests in here. So very controlled conditions for taking care of the poinsettias. You know, this is a really sunny day outside, and you can see the thickness of the paint on the windows as a way to, you know, really control the light coming into these rooms. So very little sunlight coming through. Yeah. So here we have an example of some of the taller poinsettias, which are kind of closer to the original, but these look, in terms of the shape, very branchy, almost kind of a scraggly shape, growing up tall. This is the way a poinsettia blooms or grows in Mexico. Yeah. So you can tell that the conservatory really knows what they're doing here. Shall we go and take a look in the next room?